Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to talk about what it means to improve within Warzone. I'm specifically focusing on the Battle Royale aspect of the game. And I think there's a lot of debate around winning versus kills, but personally after looking at the data, it makes sense to have a combination of both. And I'm going to explain why throughout the video, so it kind of makes sense so you know where you should be aiming for as an average player, below average player, or well above average player, where it is going to be the most likely for you to get those wins. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because it happens very often where maybe somebody's focusing 100% on the win, so they play slow, passive, they don't get into any gunfights. Maybe they get second, third, fifth place, and sometimes maybe they get first, and they'll end up with like 2 or 3 kills, but it's not very sustainable. I'm going to show you that you really want to aim for a little bit more kills if you're looking to win more matches. And one of the most common mistakes a lot of new players make is they're 100% trying to go for wins. And I know obviously if you're thinking you want to improve, you're just going to go for wins. That dictates how you improve, but it ends up putting you into a huge trap which keeps you from actually improving. There's got to be a little bit of a balance where you're learning to actually get kills, take engagements, position yourself correctly so that you can eventually get more wins. And I think that's a lot of times a mistake new players will make, is what they're going to do is go ahead and do the recons, which they can be very helpful, but you kind of get tunnel visioned and maybe you die on your way of doing a bunch of those recons, which eventually show you the final circle. So you kind of just waste a bunch of time. You get into a gunfight because you're going from point A to point B, and there's a little bit of RNG there because you don't know when you pick up that recon flag where it's going to send you. So it could be sending you to a horrible part of the map, or it can be sending you to a perfect part of the map, and you're not really having any decision making in that process. You grab the recon flag and you head to go capture it, which can work out in some cases because you get the final zone, but in other cases you end up just going from point A to point B, point C, point D, and you continue moving across the map, and you get into a gunfight that maybe you're not necessarily prepared for because you're just literally going from point A to point B. And as a result, you don't actually get good at learning how to navigate around the map. You're kind of having the game feed you the information, and you're not really picking up the details of how you need to position, listening to any of the cues that are going on the map, whether enemies are calling in UAVs, gunfire, people are popping up on your UAVs. There's a lot of information you can gather and learn how to navigate around the map. So a perfect example of this is me and my trio. We were actually just going from recon to recon to recon. We did 7 of them. I actually had 0 kills going into the final circle. Ended up getting third party by an RPG. Match ends up ending. No big deal. But I did all that and I literally did not improve from the match in any way. I got recons, I got cash, got recons, got cash, called in UAVs. Most of the players had ghosts, so it wasn't really helpful, and then we ended up losing in the end. Obviously, I can continue doing that over and over and over, and then it's really going to come down to luck. Where did those flags position themselves so I can grab them safely? Was I able to get a good zone where I didn't really have to move that much, and I was already near the final circle by the time I grabbed that final recon, and I knew where the zone was going to close? And I'm getting lucky that the building was in the perfect spot where I could either gatekeep, third party, and then I eventually get my win. But throughout that entire process, I'm spending several hours playing the game, just going through the motions without actually focusing on how to improve. And there's different elements that you're going to want to work on when it comes to improving. How to land and be able to use very different types of weapons. Obviously, you have the SCAR you can pick up, the PKM, the carbine. There's a lot of different weapons, or maybe you got to land and win the gunfight with the pistol. There's some variety there. You can get good at landing, picking up a random weapon, and winning a gunfight. Not 100%, but obviously you can improve that particular skill, landing lower to the ground so you can get to the loot quicker. There's a lot of skills involved in that. Then there's also the rotating aspect, is going from location to location and knowing how to move around the map and getting more comfortable with the map. And there's different things that you have to learn about how to rotate, where people are likely going to be, that people gravitate towards buy stations, the overall loadout drops. If more than one drops, you know that an enemy team is heading to that loadout as well because you get one of them and the enemy team gets the other. There's a lot of these different nuanced things, and there's a lot of individual skills that you can learn when it comes to overall positioning, winning gunfights. Once you've got your loadout, having the right loadout, leveling those up to the appropriate level so you can actually equip the right attachments. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do to focus on improving, but if you're only getting your recons and then just bouncing from recon to recon to recon to recon to recon, and you get towards the end of the game, top 5, 0 kills, maybe you're gonna win, but odds are you're not really improving much. That's the whole point that I wanted to focus on. And if you've been around the channel long enough, you know that I'm going to go ahead and show you some numbers that you should be focusing on when it comes to improving within Warzone. One of the things that I did put out on my community tab was, what was your Warzone win percentage? Appreciate anyone who ended up voting on that. We ended up with 4,700 votes in 3 hours. And you can see that 39% of the votes said they had never won. And that could be just maybe they don't have enough playtime, or they just haven't won and they're brand new to the game and they're not very comfortable with battle royales yet. Maybe they played a ton of multiplayer, but battle royale is completely different than multiplayer. Then you had 34% of the people said that they had only won between 1 and 3% of their matches. Then we have 12% of people that voted said they won between 4 and 6%. 6% of people voted said 7 to 10%. And then 10% said they had won 11% or higher, which could be completely possible. It really depends on how you play. And obviously this isn't 100% accurate, but it kind of gives you a good indication of where a majority of players sit. So as you can see, I kind of put together a spreadsheet including some of the top players, and then I put a few different random players that ended up DMing me their stats so I can actually include them in this anonymously. So what I want to do is focus on one of the top players here, and that's Scopes. He has 1,300 matches and 570 wins, which gives him a win percentage of 43.1, which is incredibly high. And you can see he has a 5.4 KD, 7.7 kills per match, and deaths averages 1.4 deaths a match. So that means most of the matches he's dying once, sometimes he's dying twice. Now we can look at a player on the opposite side where they're only focused on kills, and that's going to be a player by the name of Limax. If you guys haven't heard him, part of that squad that has the kill record, they have like 120 kills between 4 players, and they 100% go for kills because look at their win percentage. It's 10.2, which is actually slightly lower than my win percentage here. And you can see they average twice as many kills, but still have a lower win percentage. So what do we need to focus on? Is it kills or is it the win percentage? And what we're going to end up noticing as we get lower on this end, where people have much lower win percentages, you can see that their average kills per match tend to drop off pretty significantly, as well as their KDs. One thing I want to do is give you a little bit of information of what we can actually be aiming for. And what I was able to do is look at my last 10 trio matches, and then I also have last 10 solo matches here. So if you average the total number of kills per match, including our wins, the average winning team had 21 kills. Divide that by 3, you end up with 7 kills per member. And you can see that without our average, it drops down a little bit and drops down to 16. If you divide that out by the trio, end up with about 5 kills per member. So you don't really have these high kill games that you need, and I wouldn't necessarily aim for those 2 kill games either. At the end of the day, you should be pacing it so that overall as a team, if you have right around 5 kills a match, odds are you're going to be winning a lot more matches. And then we take a look at the same thing for solos. You can see that the average number of kills of the people who won a solo match was 7. Right here you can see the lowest was 3 and the highest was 18. And if you subtract that player's match out, the highest was 14. And beyond that, most people finish with a win with single digits. So you don't got to go crazy, get this high kill game, because odds are you're going to put yourself in bad positions. You just got to aim for probably about 6-7 kills, meaning going into the last zone, you probably have about 5. You can pick off 2, 3, or maybe 4 of those last remaining people, and you end up winning with about 7 kills. That'll at least get you to the end game. If you're playing super aggressive, you'll probably rack up kills. You can get a 20 kill game, but towards the end, you can lose. So if you're actually looking to win more matches, what should you actually be focusing on? I personally would aim for trying to get about 5 to 7 kills a match. So one of the tools I like to use to track my individual progress is CoD Tracker. You can see right around when the game dropped, I had a pretty low KD, at least in my opinion. It was a 1.85, and you can see it steadily increased as I'm learning to play the game, learning what to do, what not to do, how to position myself based off the zone and where it's going to rotate to. And you can see there's been a consistent increase in my overall KD, and that has translated to an overall increase in my win percentage. So what you're really going to want to focus on is taking the right gunfights, not every gunfight, but doesn't mean you should play passive in camp. I've done gameplay breakdown where the player kind of just sat in a room for a very long time and they really didn't get into any engagements. They avoided stuff. There's going to be times where you should probably avoid a gunfight if it's a bad gunfight, and there's probably times where you need to challenge a gunfight if it's a good gunfight. And it really comes down to learning what is a bad gunfight and what is a good gunfight, and those things are going to take practice. Also, thinking ahead a couple steps, so where do I need to rotate from here so that I can make sure that I have good positioning when I get into a potential gunfight. If you're running across the field of airport and you know that you're going to be out in the open, you probably haven't thought far enough ahead, and that's going to allow you to get into a very bad spot where people are going to pick you off in the open, whether you get sniped, third-partied, whatever the case is, caught in the gas. There's going to be a lot of variables that are going on, and the best way to improve is to go back, watch what you did, and think, what could I have done differently? Where did I mess up? Because odds are you messed up. Sometimes it could be that, hey, this person was just that much better gun skill, better positioning, they rotated earlier. There's a lot of different variables, but most of the time, if you go ahead and watch back your gameplay, you can find something that you can improve on, and I highly recommend that. Obviously, I have a series on my channel where I review subscriber gameplay. I also talk about my own individual gameplay, and then on top of that, I also break down gameplay from some of the best players in Warzone, so we can kind of learn from how they move around the map. And if we combine all that information, you're going to become a better player, and at the end of the day, you'll be improving your KD, your score per minute, your win-loss, your overall wins. And when you do all that, you are definitely going to enjoy the game that much more. If there's any particular area that you think you need to work on, make sure you comment that down below, because if enough people are commenting the same thing, I can do a dedicated video on how to improve in that individual aspect. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. I know this is a little bit different, but I think it should be very helpful in thinking about how you need to improve, not necessarily just going for wins, which I think is a huge pitfall for brand new players. If you did enjoy the video, let me know by hitting that like button. And if you're looking to find your way back to the channel because you're looking to improve, make sure you hit the red subscribe button right now with notifications on by ringing that bell. Appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.